You know that feeling when something just doesn't sit right, but you can't quite put your finger on it? That's how I felt when I came home from work one evening and noticed my wife, Sarah, acting off. She was quieter than usual, distracted, like her mind was somewhere else. At first I brushed it off. She'd been stressed lately, work had been hectic, and our two kids were going through that phase where they demanded every ounce of her energy. I figured she was just tired. But then, little things started adding up. It was the way she'd suddenly start texting someone and quickly put her phone away when I walked into the room, or the way she'd make excuses to leave the house, saying she needed to run errands that didn't seem all that urgent. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was overthinking things, but the feeling wouldn't go away. Then one day, it all came crashing down. I was at work when I got a call from the car service center. Sarah's car had been there for a routine checkup, and they needed her approval for some additional repairs. I told them I'd call her and let them know. But when I tried her phone, it went straight to voicemail. I called again, and again. Nothing. That's when I started to worry. I decided to drive over to the service center myself. Maybe she'd left her phone in the car or something. When I got there, I walked in and asked the guy at the counter if Sarah had been by. He gave me a weird look, like he wasn't sure what to say. Yeah, he said finally. She was here earlier, but she left with one of our mechanics. My stomach dropped. What do you mean she left with a mechanic? The guy shifted uncomfortably. I mean, they went out for a bit. I think they went to grab lunch or something. I felt like the ground was slipping out from under me. Sarah had left with a mechanic? Why would she do that? I asked the guy for the mechanic's name, and he hesitated before telling me it was Mike. I didn't know any Mike, but I was about to find out who he was. I waited at the service center, my mind racing. About an hour later, Sarah's car pulled into the lot. She was in the passenger seat and Mike was driving. They were laughing about something, and for a moment I just stood there, frozen. Then, as they got out of the car, Sarah saw me. Her smile disappeared, and her face went pale. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice shaky. I didn't answer. I just looked at Mike, who was standing there awkwardly, pretending to check something on the car. "Who's this?" I asked, my voice low. Sarah hesitated. "This is Mike. He's been helping me with the car." I looked at her, my heart pounding. "Helping you with the car? Is that what you call it?" Mike cleared his throat. "Look, man, it's not what you think." I cut him off. "I don't even know what I think, but I know what it looks like." Sarah stepped forward, her eyes pleading. "Please, let's not do this here. Let's go home and talk." I wanted to scream, to demand answers right then and there, but I knew she was right. This wasn't the place. So I nodded, my jaw clenched, and followed her to the car. The drive home was silent. I could feel the tension between us, thick and suffocating. When we got home, I turned to her and said, "Start talking." Sarah took a deep breath, her hands trembling. "I didn't mean for this to happen. It just did." I stared at her, my heart breaking. "What just happened, Sarah? What did you do?" She looked down, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. It was a mistake. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut." "A mistake? You call cheating on me a mistake?" She started to cry harder, her shoulders shaking. "I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, but I love you, and I want to make this right. Please just give me a chance." I didn't know what to say. My mind was racing, my emotions a whirlwind of anger, hurt, and betrayal. I wanted to believe her, to believe that we could fix this. But I didn't know if I could. I sat down, my head in my hands. "I don't know, Sarah. I don't know if I can forgive you." She reached out, her hand trembling as she touched my arm. "Please, just give me a chance. I'll do anything to make this right." I didn't answer. I just sat there staring at the floor, trying to figure out what to do next. The silence in the room was deafening. Sarah sat across from me, her face streaked with tears, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. I could see the guilt in her eyes, the fear of losing everything we'd built together. But all I could feel was the weight of her betrayal pressing down on me, suffocating me. "How long has this been going on?" I finally asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Sarah hesitated, her eyes darting away from mine. It only happened once, I swear. It was a moment of weakness, and I regret it more than anything. I stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. "Once? You expect me to believe that? You've been acting strange for weeks, Sarah. Don't tell me this was just one moment." She shook her head, tears falling faster. "I know how it looks, but it's the truth. I was feeling lonely. You've been so busy with work, and I just wanted to feel seen. Mike was there, and he listened to me. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. And I hate myself for it." Her words cut through me like a knife. I had been busy with work. Too busy, maybe. But that didn't excuse what she'd done. Nothing could excuse it. "So what now?" I asked, my voice hollow. "You expect me to just forget about this? To pretend it never happened?" Sarah reached out, her hand trembling as she touched mine. "No, I don't expect that. I know I've hurt you, and I know it's going to take time to rebuild your trust. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I love you and I don't want to lose you." I pulled my hand away, my heart aching. "I don't know if I can do this, Sarah. I don't know if I can ever trust you again." She nodded, her tears falling silently. "I understand. And if you need time to think, I'll give you that. But please just don't shut me out. Let's try to work through this together." I didn't respond. I just sat there, staring at the floor, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. Part of me wanted to walk away, to end things right then and there. But another part of me, the part that still loved her, wanted to believe that we could fix this. The next few days were a blur. I moved into the guest room needing space to think. Sarah respected my boundaries, giving me the distance I needed, but I could see the pain in her eyes every time we crossed paths. She was trying, cooking my favorite meals, leaving little notes around the house, even suggesting we go to couples therapy. But every gesture felt like a reminder of what she'd done, and it only made the hurt worse. One evening, as I was sitting in the living room, Sarah came in and sat down across from me. "We need to talk," she said softly. I looked at her, my heart heavy. "About what?" She took a deep breath, her hands clenched in her lap. "About us. About what happens next. I can't keep living like this, not knowing if we're going to make it or not. I need to know if you're willing to try." I didn't answer right away. I wanted to tell her that I was willing, that I wanted to fight for our marriage, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I said, "I don't know, Sarah. I don't know if I can get past this." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I understand. And if you decide that you can't, I'll respect that. But I need you to know that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make this right. I love you, and I don't want to lose you." I looked at her, my heart breaking all over again. I wanted to believe her, to believe that we could fix this. But the betrayal was still too fresh, too raw. A few days later, I decided to do something I'd been avoiding. I reached out to Mike. I didn't know what I was hoping to achieve, but I needed to hear his side of the story. I needed to know if there was more to it than Sarah was telling me. I found his number through the car service center and sent him a text. "We need to talk." He responded almost immediately. "Okay, meet me at the park." That evening, I drove to the park, my stomach in knots. Mike was already there, sitting on a bench by the water. He looked up as I approached, his expression unreadable. "Hey," he said, standing up. I nodded, my hands clenched into fists at my sides. "Let's walk." We started down the path, the silence between us heavy. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "Why did you do it?" I asked, my voice low. Mike sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It wasn't planned, man. It just happened. Sarah came in a few times and we started talking. She was going through a rough time, and I guess I was too. One thing led to another, and, well, you know the rest." I stopped walking and turned to face him. "That's it? That's your excuse? It just happened?" He looked at me, his eyes filled with regret. "I'm not trying to make excuses. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. And I'm sorry." I stared at him, my anger bubbling up. "You're sorry? That's all you have to say? You destroyed my marriage, and you're sorry?" Mike looked down, his shoulders slumping. "I know it doesn't mean much, but I never meant for this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you." I laughed bitterly. "Well, you did. And now I don't know if I can ever forgive you. Or her." Mike nodded, his expression serious. "I'll stay out of your lives. I promise." I didn't know if I believed him, but I knew I'd done all I could. I turned and walked away, my mind racing. I didn't know what to do with everything I was feeling. Part of me wanted to forgive Sarah, to try to move past this, but another part of me couldn't let go of the betrayal. When I got home, Sarah was waiting for me. She looked up as I walked in, her eyes filled with hope and fear. "How did it go?" she asked softly. I sat down across from her, my heart heavy. "I talked to Mike," she nodded, her hands twisting in her lap. "And?" I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "He promised to stay out of our lives. For good." Sarah looked down, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I never meant to hurt you." I looked at her, my heart breaking all over again. "I know you didn't, but that doesn't change what happened." She reached out, her hand trembling as she touched mine. "Please, just give me a chance to make this right. I'll do anything." I looked at her, my mind racing. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that we could fix this, but I didn't know if I could. Finally, I nodded. "We'll take it one day at a time, but I can't promise anything." Sarah nodded, her tears falling faster. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for giving me a chance." I didn't respond. I just sat there, staring at the floor, trying to figure out what to do next. The days that followed were a strange mix of tension and tentative hope. Sarah and I were trying to navigate this new, fragile version of our relationship. We started couples therapy, something I never thought we'd need. The first session was, brutal. Sitting in that small, overly bright room with a stranger dissecting our marriage felt like having salt poured into an open wound. But as much as it hurt, I knew we needed it. The therapist, a woman named Dr. Patel, was calm and patient. She didn't take sides, which I appreciated, but she also didn't let either of us off the hook. "Infidelity is a symptom, not the root problem," she said during one session. "We need to figure out what led to this moment. What was missing in your relationship that made this happen?" I didn't have an answer. Neither did Sarah. But as the sessions went on, things started to come to the surface. Sarah admitted she'd been feeling lonely, disconnected. She said she felt like I'd been prioritizing work over her, that she didn't feel seen or appreciated. Hearing that hurt, but it also made me realize how much I'd been neglecting her. I wasn't innocent in all of this. I'd been so focused on climbing the corporate ladder, on providing for us, that I'd stopped being present in our marriage. I'd stopped noticing the little things, the way she'd light up when I complimented her cooking, the way she'd curl up next to me on the couch when we watched movies. I'd taken her for granted, and now we were paying the price. But even as we started to unpack all of this, the betrayal still hung over us like a dark cloud. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, my mind racing with images of Sarah and Mike. Together, I'd feel a surge of anger, of hurt, and I'd have to remind myself that we were trying to move forward. But it wasn't easy. One night, after a particularly rough therapy session, Sarah and I got into a fight. It started small, something about how I'd forgotten to take out the trash, but it quickly escalated. "You're not even trying," Sarah shouted, her voice breaking. "You say you want to fix this, but you're just going through the motions," I snapped. "You're one to talk about trying. You're the one who cheated, remember? You're the one who destroyed everything." Sarah flinched like I'd slapped her. She took a step back, her eyes filled with tears. "I know what I did," she said quietly, "and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it up to you. But you have to meet me halfway. You have to let me in." I didn't respond. I just stood there, my chest heaving, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. Finally, I turned and walked out of the room. I needed space. I needed to breathe. I ended up driving to Mark's place. He'd been my best friend since college, and even though we didn't talk as much as we used to, I knew he'd be there for me. When I showed up at his door, he took one look at me and said, "Come on in. I'll grab us a beer." We sat on his couch, the TV playing some sports game in the background, and I told him everything. About the therapy, about the fight, about how I didn't know if I could ever truly forgive Sarah. Mark listened quietly, nodding along. When I finished, he leaned back and said, "Look, man, I'm not going to tell you what to do. This is your life, your marriage. But I will say this. If you're going to stay, you have to really commit to it. You can't keep throwing the affair in her face every time you fight. That's not fair to either of you." I knew he was right. But knowing something and doing it were two very different things. When I got home that night, Sarah was waiting for me. She was sitting on the couch, her knees pulled up to her chest, her eyes red from crying. "I'm sorry," she said as soon as I walked in. "I shouldn't have yelled at you. I know this is hard for you too." I sat down next to her, my heart heavy. "I'm sorry too. I shouldn't have thrown the affair in your face. It's hard, Sarah. It's really hard." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I know, and I hate that I'm the reason you're hurting. I hate that I did this to us." I reached out and took her hand, squeezing it gently. "We're both hurting, but we're trying. That has to count for something, right?" She looked at me, her eyes filled with hope. "It does. It counts for everything." We sat there for a while, holding hands, not saying much. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. The next few weeks were better. Not perfect, but better. We started to find a rhythm again, a way to be around each other without the constant tension. We went on dates, something we hadn't done in years. We talked, really talked, about our hopes, our fears, our dreams. It felt like we were rediscovering each other. But even as things improved, the shadow of what had happened still lingered. I'd catch myself watching Sarah sometimes, wondering if she was thinking about Mike, if she regretted what she'd done. I'd wonder if she still loved me the way she used to, or if I was just the safe choice. One night, as we were lying in bed, I finally worked up the courage to ask her, "Do you regret it?" Sarah turned to look at me, her eyes wide. "Regret what?" "What happened with Mike. Do you regret it?" She was quiet for a long time, and for a moment I thought she wasn't going to answer. Then she said, "I regret hurting you. I regret betraying your trust. But I don't regret that it happened." I felt a stab of pain in my chest. "Why?" She took a deep breath, her voice trembling. "Because it made me realize how much I was taking you for granted. It made me realize how much I love you, how much I don't want to lose you." I didn't know what to say to that. Part of me wanted to be angry, to feel betrayed all over again. But another part of me understood what she was saying. We lay there in silence for a while, the weight of everything hanging between us. Finally, I reached out and took her hand. "I love you too," I said quietly. "And I don't want to lose you either." It wasn't a perfect resolution. It wasn't a happily ever after, but it was a step forward. And for now, that was enough. The next few months were a strange mix of progress and setbacks. Sarah and I were trying to rebuild our relationship, but it felt like we were walking on a tightrope. One wrong move, and everything could come crashing down. We continued with therapy, and while it helped, it also brought up a lot of painful truths. We had to confront not just the infidelity, but the cracks in our marriage that had been there long before Mike ever entered the picture. One of the hardest things was learning to trust again. I wanted to believe Sarah when she said she was committed to us, but the fear of being hurt again was always there, lurking in the back of my mind. I found myself second-guessing everything. Her tone of voice, her body language, the way she looked at her phone. It was exhausting, and I knew it wasn't fair to either of us, but I didn't know how to let go of the fear. Sarah, to her credit, was patient. She understood why I was struggling, and she did everything she could to reassure me. She was more transparent than ever, sharing her phone passcode, letting me know where she was going, who she was with. But even with all that, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still off. Then, one evening, something happened that changed everything. We were sitting on the couch watching a movie when Sarah's phone buzzed. She picked it up, glanced at the screen, and her face went pale. She quickly put the phone down, but I'd already seen the name. Mike. My heart sank. "What did he want?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Sarah looked at me, her eyes filled with guilt. He texted me. He said he's moving away and wanted to say goodbye." I felt a surge of anger, but I tried to stay calm. "And what did you say?" She shook her head. I didn't respond. I swear I didn't. I was going to tell you about it, but I didn't know how. I took a deep breath, trying to process what she was saying. Part of me wanted to be angry, to accuse her of hiding things from me again. But another part of me understood how hard it must have been for her to tell me. "Why didn't you just tell me right away?" I asked, my voice softer now. Sarah looked down, her hands trembling. "Because I was scared. I didn't want you to think I was still talking to him. I didn't want to lose you again." I reached out and took her hand, squeezing it gently. "You're not going to lose me, but you have to be honest with me, Sarah, even when it's hard." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I know, and I'm sorry. I'll do better, I promise." We sat there for a while, holding hands, not saying much. It wasn't perfect, but it felt like a step forward. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope. As time went on, things started to improve. Slowly but surely, we began to rebuild the trust that had been broken. It wasn't easy, and there were still moments of doubt and fear, but we were committed to making it work. We started to find joy in the little things again, cooking dinner together, going for walks, laughing at stupid jokes. It felt like we were rediscovering each other, and it was beautiful. But even as we moved forward, the past was always there, a shadow lurking in the background. I knew it would always be a part of our story, but I was starting to believe that it didn't have to define us. We could choose to learn from it, to grow from it, and to build something stronger because of it. One night, as we were lying in bed, Sarah turned to me and said, "Do you think we'll ever be okay?" I looked at her, my heart full. "I think we already are." She smiled, her eyes filled with tears. "I love you." "I love you too," I said, pulling her close. And for the first time in a long time, I truly believed it. To everyone who's been following this story, thank you for sticking with me until the end. I know it wasn't easy to hear, and I know it brought up a lot of emotions for some of you, but I hope it also gave you hope. Hope that even when things seem impossible, there's always a way forward. It might not be easy, and it might not be perfect, but it's worth it. If you've been through something similar, I want you to know that you're not alone. It's okay to feel hurt, to feel angry, to feel lost. But it's also okay to forgive, to heal, and to move forward. You deserve happiness and you deserve love. Don't ever forget that. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this story, please check out my other videos. And as always, take care of yourselves and each other. See you next time.